Hello everyone, this is Thomas. This is my very first deck tech for Dash.io. It took me quite some time to get one recorded. Playing the hero since its inception in Bright Light, and I took the liberty to do it after finally getting some Living Legend points on Dash.io this Saturday. I won my Road to Nationals in Berlin, actually split the finals, spoiler alert. And I'm gonna show you the deck I played, why I played it, some of the matchups, and then I'm gonna walk through the actual tournament. Yeah. So as I said, I'm playing the hero for quite some time. I had some success on the hero. I have a calling to wait in Warsaw. I also have a 12th place in a calling with the hero. I made some money in the Pro Tour playing the hero, but it's actually the first time I won an event with it, and yeah. So last week I also played Dash.io at the Road to Nationals in Berlin. I only got to play 5 rounds because the event started very late in the day and I already had dinner lined up with friends, so I couldn't finish the event. I wouldn't have made top 8 anyway. I started 1 and 2 after beating Kasai round 1, then lose to Gravy and to Hatchet Story. So I was out of contentions pretty quickly. The list I played back then was a bit different. I played a list that was focusing on Hanabi Blaster for some of the slower matchups, for the Earth matchup, and for Verdance. So I changed the list a bit now that Florian Living Legend and Fatigue Playdies came into the metagame now. So the Hanabi Blaster plan did not work that well anymore. And yeah, I will show you what I changed in the deck. Okay, so let's get to the deck list. Here has the hero. I have the default matchup equipment here. It's usually depends. It's usually adaptive plating you would see in the sideboard, or Achilles Accelerator in the boot slot. The other equipment, I am playing a version with not very much equipment. It's only adaptive plating, Goliath Gauntlet, and Achilles Accelerator, the Tinkerings, Crown of Providence, and Teklo Foundry Heart. In the past, I always played Visirtronic, Volcano, and also Verdance. But in this meta game, it's just not useful enough to actually play it into Verdance. So why this equipment? There's also Balance of Justice I didn't play, and as I said before, Hanabi Blaster is an option as a weapon. I get to that when I go to the matchups, but I think the Hanabi Blaster is not that useful in the current metagame. So I have not that many equipments, so that means I have a lot of space in my actual deck, which comes up to 73 cards total. This would be like the fat deck that I play in the matchups where I play all the cards, which are some, for example, Pleiades. And what I'm quite particular about is I want to have, I build my ratios based on a 60 card deck, which would look like this. I actually never play this deck with 60 cards, but this is where I base all my ratios of the deck. And you can see here, there's 50% reds, the 12% yellows, 18% blues, and it's 50% yellows and blues, 15 items, which is 25% items, and 12 crank items is 20% crank items. I played some different ratios, but this is where I want to be close to, also with the number of 2 costs in the deck. I think this is a number that works really well for me. I see a lot of Dash.io decks who not play that many yellows and blues and play more reds. Honestly, I think I'd rather have less flashy blues or reds, blues or yellows, than getting screwed when not having the necessary resources in my turn. That gets me to the deck. First things first, let's go back to the fat deck again. I'm playing a maximum velocity list. You can see Sam Sutherland and Yap Ilst. He always plays a BIOS update list without any maximum velocities. So the main difference is just, apart from the absence of maximum velocity in the list, is that they have less zero cost boost cards, which means they have more one cost boost cards like Fender Bender and Medex, and so they have more break points. So I have more zero cost boost cards to actually get maximum velocity played reliably, and the deck plays hence very different from the BIOS update list. So I tried it a little bit, but I have always played a max V list, and it was very hard for me to, like, in some matchups to get to the level of confidence with the deck that I would like for an event. So I then switched back to this list and made this for the second event here, for the second Road to Nationals. So like I said, I think in the aggro and mid-range matchups, the decks play quite similar. You play a little bit different with the Cerebellum processor, but in the long game, I had a harder time to actually beat fatigue decks or Verdances or just decks where the game goes longer, where they have the Hyper Scraper and Prismatic Lens game plan. Yeah, so I said in the past, usually let's go to the deck a little bit. The items are pretty straightforward. We have the backup protocols red, boom grenades red. We have yellow boom grenades, cerebellum processors, and tickler cores. They're all staples in the deck. We have one nighttime zone, which is mostly for Celio, but it's also there to present good ratios and additional crank items in the mid-range and in the longer fatigue matchups. So it's obviously not that great. It was better in the past when people played more Rootbound Carapace, for example. It has still some utility, but it's not an important card in most matchups, but it's very important and very good in Torsilio. Okay. And then there's stuff for like the fatigue game and the long matchups, which is the convection amplifier. And then we have a plasma mainline Teklo Pounder package, which I mostly is for Pleiades and other fatigue decks, but nowadays it's mostly for Pleiades. Then we also have two BIOS updates. They are also there for just the day where I play all the cards in the deck, and they are extremely good for obviously high rolling, if you see a Teklo Pounder on top of your deck, or you have a big turn where you actually find more than one item on the top of your deck. BIOS update is simply amazing. But the other use case, which I quite often use in long games, is it's the ability to close with BIOS update. So late in the game, I'm trying to close the game with convection amplifier and BIOS update. Best case, we still have Goliath Gauntlet up, and I will talk about that in the match report a little bit later, in the tournament report, where you can see that there's good use case for late in the game closing with convection amplifier and BIOS update, combine it with the heist, get an item back and just win from there, or just have a throttle coming in and hitting boom grenades. Also works really well with outpace BIOS update and convection amplifier to actually get through boom grenades late in the game. The rest of the deck, I have Sprocket Rockets and T-Bones as red cards. I really don't like Expedite. I think it's fine. It's good into Gravy Bones, but it's not good into anything else. Maybe it's okay into Syndra, but I think it's just so weak. I'm also not a huge fan of T-Bone, but it has some really good, if you play it well, you had some very nice use cases. Yeah. Then the Sprocket Rockets, I think I'm a fan of the Sprocket Rockets, especially like later in the game. In second cycle for Dio, there's often comes the point where you can really still have Teklo Pounders in the deck that you pitched, you have Teklo Cores in the deck that you pitched, and you actually don't want these items at this point anymore, and then the Sprocket Rockets are really nice. Also, they're super good into, I don't know, if you wanna banish your first item for heist and all kinds of things. I had 3, but there's only space for 2 now, and I think it's fine. Anything else here is pretty standard. Heist is really, really good right now. Outpace, good card. Throttle I have just because of Gravy, and it has 6 power, and yeah, it's just a nice way to clear chum efficiently. It's also a popper into Prism, and I think Twin Drive is not that great right now. I think in the aggressive matchups you're favored. It doesn't matter if you have Throttle or Twin Drive, and in the longer matchups you usually don't want to lose the extra cards from the Twin Drive and the extra damage point. So I think Throttles are now better. I like 0 to 60 yellow over like tech 0 costs that have text like Expedite. I think this just makes it easier to cast your cards. Anything else here? I'm a big fan of blue throttles, especially if you want to play Goliath Gauntlet. They're quite important. Also, this is a good way to clear chum into Gravy. Yeah. And then there's enough space to actually play the full sets of the super hits, 0 to 60s and T-bones. Some people like outpaces in blue. Not a huge fan. This is a numbers list. I really want to hit stuff, and I think I'm always preferring the higher number on the card. All right. Maybe talk about cards we don't play. Like I said before, I played Braces of Belief the week before. If Gravy is bigger in the meta game, it's a better card because you can just pump a 4 attack with it. But if fatigue decks are more important to beat, then Goliath Gauntlet is the better card. Yeah. Okay. I think we should talk about matchups next. We don't look at all the matchups. You can look at them. You can look at them afterwards. I just talk about the most important ones, and if you have any questions, you can just leave it in the comments. Okay. I also have not all the matchups, like I have put in all the matchups, but not all of them are like completely tested. There's some matchups I haven't tested that much, and I'm not super sure, for example, into RKO, what would be the best equipment layout, and if I really want to play so many setup cards, or if I want to play less cards and try to kill them faster. So actually, I would try it like this, but I don't actually know at this point. Because even it's just a couple cards that you usually switch in the Dash.io decks, but it still makes some of the matchups, how you approach them, different. Okay. Let's go into maybe start with Syndra. This is a race matchup. We're playing 64 cards here because a lot of Syndras play D-Reacts, and I just want to hedge a little bit, have some extra cards and extra potential. With Tickle Pounder, that would I only play on the play, and have a Throttle as well. Yeah. So on the draw, I would not play the Throttle, the Tickle Pounder. Because you kind of want to have less items when they go first. I play the full blocking equipment here, trying to delay their Mask of Momentum at least for a little bit. Yeah. Then let's look at Assassin next. This is one of like the mid-range matchups. We play the same equipment suite. And we play 67 cards here. Again, Tickle Pounder in there. You always find some notes here. We have the ratios for the 67 card deck, which are quite similar. As you remember, we had 50% here, 30% before. It's the same. A little bit less total yellows and blues because we don't have any extra yellows we can bring. But we're just trying to stick to the same ratios no matter how big the deck is. Okay, yeah. So I'm playing Null Time Zone here. Simply ratios. You can also like there's some utility for it here, but it's mostly for having enough prime items, having the ratios right, and then maybe soul read them and win the game by guessing the correct card here. Or maybe you even know the card because you pulse it Papuntem. Okay, next matchup we're gonna look at is Mirror. Is not that interesting. It's 60 cards. It's I think the only matchup I'm playing 60 cards in nowadays. I think Null Time Zone has a Could be played in the mirror as well, just naming 0 to 60 and then put it, don't remove a counter and just put it into graveyard in the next turn if you draw a 0 to 60 yourself. Can be very strong. Yeah, I think, yeah. I haven't tried it that much. I think it's, again, matter of ratios if I want to have it in the deck or not. Next matchup we can look at is another mid-range matchup. It's all the brutes. We're playing all the blocking equipment again. It's also in the mirror, we're playing the blocking equipment, 67 cards. Yeah. Pretty similar to Mario, actually, which is funny. What else? Gravy Bones is interesting. Some people like to play more blocking equipment, but I think most of the time I kind of want it to be a race because I think the best option to win against us is fatigue. And I like to use my life total for some use. Obviously, if they have disruption with Conqueror, then the... Okay, so this is wrong. So I am actually playing Goliath Gauntlet in the matchup. Yeah. So let's update that. Yeah. Because I like to use my life total in the matchup to absorb some of their attacks and not have, sometimes you have the blocking equipment and they are disincentivized from attacking you and they're incentivized to block more. And then it can happen that you don't actually use the equipment at all and you get fatigued. There are some merits to playing more blocking equipment, but for me this worked best and I think it's just too important to actually maximize the damage output that I have and not minimizing their disruption. We still have Crown of Providence we can use. And yeah, you're gonna live with getting hit by Conqueror. Because when they send it, they have to take some damage. And usually it only happens quite like either very early where they can do something or very late where they can do something. And then we still have to get there. The cards in the deck also quite similar to the other mid-range matchups. It's just the equipment suite that changed here. I'm gonna look next at which is a matchup a lot of people have to play a lot nowadays. It's Guardian, and it's probably, let's think about Pleiades. This is a matchup where I play all the cards, and the goal is to, at some point in the game, establish Plasma mainline as early as possible. So if you have Spark of Genius, this is what you search for. There's a lot of, and then you use your counters to put counters on Tickle Pounders. They can't really punish you that much if you just set up. So it's quite important to preserve cards in deck and put some Tickle Pounders into play. The secondary plan you have, if you don't find this early, is you can try and set up or do big max V turns, but usually there comes the point where you have to take a stop and set up and do the Plasma lane line Tickle Pounder thing, or at least set up another 2 Tickle Pounders. Yeah. The thing is, the deck is pretty big now, and the chances are obviously worse finding these items the more cards you have in your deck, but also you have a lot of time into them. So basically, again, use your life total as a resource. A lot of the games I won into Pleiades, I just ended up at 1 life. And not very many cards in deck. So be very smart about how you use your cards in deck. Try to win clashes into them when they mill us you. If I have a max V or some other attack on top, I usually try and take a chance because they have a lot of non-attacks in the deck either. So a lot of times Miller's Grandson ended up at 3 or 2 counters. Yeah. So the annoying thing about the matchup is a little bit the confidence tokens are quite good, especially if you're setting up like the Tickle Pounders. You can't really play a small attack first because they get boosted up by Pounders. So yeah, you're gonna have to live with that. That they get value from that. But yeah, I think the matchup is hard, but it's also winnable with this kind of configuration. You have to try. You have to get some reps playing the matchup. It takes some yeah, some practice. Okay. Then we have Victor and Lyeth. It's basically this. I think it's the same setup. I might not want to play the ley line into Victor, but I think I would play the other cards. Again, this is one of the matchups I haven't really tried with this kind of list. I played the Hanabi Blaster list before that, and yeah, not super sure. We might be able to play a little bit less cards, but I think just having the high roll from having Leyline turn 0 is still pretty good into Victor as well. Also here, again, I'm not playing the blocking equipment because I really need to put them under pressure, either setting up and blocking with cards from hand or putting pressure on them. And yeah. So in both scenarios, I don't really need to block that much. Or there's not that many cards I really want to block with equipment. Okay, what matchup is interesting as well? Okay, I played into Celio a bunch on the weekend. This is another matchup we're playing 60 cards. Here I'm not 100% sure what would be the correct 60 cards. I'm cutting the T-bones here because they don't really, I mean, they have equipment that blocks, but they have so much Battle-Born equipment, so it doesn't matter after the first block. I tried to play, I think I added one T-bone in one of the games when I was on the play. But you have the blue T-bones you can play when you're on the play, so you still have some way to 3 cards where you can chew a bit through the armor. Yeah, and I had it in the tournament scenario where they were thinking about blocking with all the Battle-Born equipments, and then I could have nuked their old knocker with T-bone. So there's some utility there as well. Yeah, so playing AB1, which I crack if I need to, it doesn't really matter in the matchup, but it's nice to have, especially at turn 0. And yeah, but it's mostly for the action point. And I also value like the offensive abilities of Goliath Gauntlet, in combination especially with Heist, because Heist for 7 is really good into Celio. Heist is really good, and 7 power Heist is even better. So this is one of the cards that usually makes the matchup end up in your favor. Yeah, I also played in Prism. Prism is a bit of a 64 card matchup. Backup protocols are super good into them because you can just have it on the table and then have an on-demand popper. You play a bit more cards because sometimes the games go like both players go down equally in life total, and then both players are below 10, and then you kind of have to block with cards, and they have to block with cards, and you're playing smaller hands, and you're using cards, and then you can be fatigued by Prism as well. So that can happen. It can be quite close. So I rather hedge a little bit and play some extra cards here. Don't play the T-bones. They're not especially good into them. They don't have equipment we can remove. Yeah. Also, like, I think the matchup here is wrong. I'm not playing Achilles Accelerator anymore. The threat of Arclight Sentinel is just not big enough. I'm playing the full blocking suite, which is very important into them, and always try to have at least 2 block left from your equipment to cover their Herald of Erudition. All right. I think the last matchup I want to take a look at is going to be Kasai. This is a bit of a weird matchup because it can go very long, and so you need some setup. I'm only not playing the Plasma Leyline because the Convection Amplifier, it is a great card, but also it's a red non-block, and more red non-blocks is not where I want to be. And I think I don't really need the Leyline. I don't want to set up that much into Kasai because I have to pressure them. And these are cards I can just... I can play this from the top. And Leyline, if I draw it later in the game, it's just so bad. Yeah. And I'm also here, I'm playing only 4 block. If they send a naked Centauri Saber for 2 on the first chain link, I usually just block it. Just prevent the Bloodfaller's Blade. But if it's more than 2 on the first one, you just let it hit. And if they get their cell sword, so be it. Okay, I think that's it for now. If you have any questions, again, please leave them in the comments. And I think I will just now move on to the tournament report. All right, let's get to the tournament. I'm using a tool from my friend Mark. The website is called fab-results.net. Has some cool information on the page, and also some really nice tools. You should really check it out. I will put it in the comments of this video as well, so you can give it a try. It's obviously completely free. Okay, so we're starting the tournament in round 1. We're playing a KO. KO is a favorite matchup, I'd say. I'm playing against Nico, who has not that experienced in the matchup, so he wins the die roll, but lets me go first. And this was something back when Calling Warsaw was happening. A lot of the KOs were opting to letting me go first, which resulted in me actually like winning more die rolls than I should. And in this case, it was pretty much the same. I got to set up 2 items, turn 0, put an arsenal and pass the turn. But they had a really strong turn 1 where they just went into Buckwild and Sure Strength, which resulted with 16 damage, so I was on 20 life after turn 1. Then a little bit later in the game, they decided to not block the last 2 cards and keeping another Show of Strength to play it, but they had to sacrifice their Sash to do so. Send 8, sacrifice Sash. Not sure that was the correct decision there. Maybe it should have blocked another card and put one of the attacks into Arsenal. And then a bit later, one of my heists hit, and from there on, the game was won. So it was actually a little bit close. I banished quite a number of power cards quite early, so I banished 2 Max Vs, for example. So it was a bit scary, but in the end, and then they tried to come back in the final turn, attacked with Bare Fangs and discarded the Blood Rush from the top, so that sealed the deal. But in the end, it wasn't really necessary that happened. And so I won my first game. Round 2. We're playing again, and it's gonna be another KO. This time we're playing against Ming. He took a bit of a break, or in the last couple of weeks, so he was a little bit rusty, as he said. Nonetheless, I started the game. This time I won the die roll. I started the game, and they immediately sent Command and Conquer, which I covered with 3 of my equipment, because the top of my deck was an item, so I couldn't really use Crown of Providence to cover it. And they played a version of the deck with a lot more disruption. They also had Erase Phase, which they attacked, I think, on their next turn, so I had to block that. And then they took a lot of damage to play Bloodrush Bellows, and I had a Null Time Zone on the top of my deck and also Backup Protocol in play. So I was tanking a little bit and then played the Null Time Zone from the top, naming Erase Phase, because it would be like the only card that could actually make me block with cards from hand, and I really didn't want to do that. So then I didn't have to do that. The turn was pretty big, but not big enough, and then in the end I got there. So again, I had a pretty good draw. I won the die roll and had some things go my way, and just sending Command and Conquer in his first turn as his only attack is just not enough in the matchup. If, as a DO, I'm drawing have normal draws or decent draws. Round 3 is against Ling. He is on Auxilio, and matchup is favored, obviously, but okay, let's get to the next round. Sorry. Yeah, there we go. This is the Auxilio game. It's against Ling, and I'm winning that die roll again. Did I win die roll in this matchup? Let me think. yeah, I won the die roll, so I was 2-1 in die rolls, but actually 3-0 with the first round. I win the die roll, pass the turn. The first turn is immediately mind warping me. I had a hand where I had an Altheim Zone in hand and heist, so I'm losing my 4 cards, gaining 3 cards back. Play my turn again, pass to them, and they play like a like a medium-sized combo turn with gun and a flash and ending on a mind warp as well. But this time I had a weird hand. I had Naltam, so no, I had MXV, Core, I think, and something else. Not quite sure, but I needed to find Cerebellum processor from the top so I could draw. No, I had a 0 to 6, and I had a 0 to 60 in Arsenal, so that was the hand. So I played Cerebellum from the top, drew a Zipper hit, so I could like play Zipper hit, 0 to 60. And then I had a maximum velocity leftover, which I had no use for, so I put this in Arsenal. Passed the turn. They kept 3 cards and then played Command and Conquer as their only attack, which I couldn't and didn't want to block. So I just gave them a take Lufandra's hand for 1, let the Max V go, and close the game from there. So it was quite close, but in the end, like the combo turn was a little bit too small, and just the Command and Conquer was also not big enough. But it was like he had kind of, I think, the tools which you need to have in the matchup to actually threaten to win against Dio, because double mind warp and a combo turn early, that helped a lot. Yep, so that was this game. So I was 3-0 at this point and locked for Tibet, which is really nice. Next opponent was Toby, and he was on Verdance. This time I won the die roll as well. So I'm 3-1 in die rolls and actually were able to play first in all my games. This time I'm just having a hand that doesn't do much. I'm only playing an Altheim Zone from my hand, naming Cadaver's Tilling and passing the turn. And then they just put a card in Arsenal and pass the turn to me. And then the game just goes on and on and on. And they have really, really non-functional turns. So they don't do anything in the beginning. I'm doing a couple very large max V turns, hitting like 2 boom grenades in the first one and then a boom grenade in the second one, but they still have a lot of life. And then in the end, I'm closing the game with throttle and the BIOS update. So I had to like do a little bit of a setup turn where I play a BIOS update with a T-bone, finding so I play a convection amplifier from the top, so I know this is the card I want to win the game with. I'm playing a T-bone with a BIOS update because the next card is a boom grenade, and I don't expect it to hit, so I just attack with the T-bone for 6, boost it, find the boom grenade, don't crank it, and then put my last card, the throttle, into Arsenal, so my hand was all red, so wasn't able to do more with it. Put the throttle in Arsenal. In the next hand, I'm finding another boom grenade and another BIOS update. So I'm going Goliath Gauntlet, BIOS update, boom grenade, all from hand. Give it dominate and attack for 11 dominate, hitting 2 yellow boom grenades and closing the game there. I think, and then in the aftermath, like their hands were so non-functional in the beginning, so they could only play for fatigue from the very start of the game. But also, like the first hand, I think they probably should have just discarded 1 or even 2 of the shelters. So yeah, so not the greatest start for the game for them. Bit lucky for me, but everything went well. Yeah. So next round is round 5. We're both locked for debate. It's just for like first or second seed. I think we also both locked for position for top 4, so we can choose who goes first in top 8. And this is obviously very, very good for Dash.io if they can choose the starting player. So mission accomplished. I think I only want to win the quarterfinals so I can qualify for nationals. I'm playing Frank. I'm losing die roll this time. He's on Syndra. He goes first. My starting hand has an item. I leak minimal damage for that, but I have to block with Spark of Genius, which is never fun. The game is super close. I was like, I put him, I think, on like 6 life or so, and I was on 23 life, having an arsenal, seeing my hand. I have a Declacore, I'm having 2 heists, I have a Boom Grenade and a pitch card, so a Max V, a pitch card, a heist in arsenal, a heist in hand, and and the pitch card blue in my hand. So I think like, okay, I don't know. I mean, he has 4 cards in arsenal, so I think if I don't die this turn, I think I can just close it in my next turn. They go attack me with 3 cards. I did let Mask of Momentum hit because I didn't have any equipment left and I didn't want to block with a card from hand. After the Mask of Momentum, they find a Blaze Headlong, so dealing another 4 damage, and then they're finding doing a Snatch, still having a card in hand. So I'm blocking the Snatch, and they give it. They made it Draconic, and they give it go again with the boots, playing another Snatch, which I have to let hit. And with the second Snatch, they find a Shelter from the top, which they put in Arsenal. So, and then it is very close to I'm sending the heist. I'm doing, sending the heist in, dealing some damage, setting some cards from his hand. But then in his next turn, he brings me to 2, and then buys his daggers back and finds Flick Knives and puts me So he buys his daggers back and attacks me again with the final dagger. So he could either put me to 1, or I could block it with the card from hand. So my board is now Declacore. I have counters on Symbiosis Shot, and I have a 0 to 60 yellow and a Fast and Furious in hand. And I'm thinking, okay, I can block this and go to 2, but then I have only the Fast and Furious, and I need to find like an item immediately from top to make any value out of it. Or I can just play to win and try to just take his full hand in the next turn. He was on 4 life. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm keeping both cards, going to 1, sending this 0 to 60 yellow, putting him to 1 as well. He doesn't block it. I used Take a Foundry Heart, didn't find an item, send in the Fast and Furious, boost it, and he blocks for 4. So I find the item from the top, which is Boom Grenade, which is really smart from him, blocking 4 at this point. But I'm getting another action point. So I'm not playing it right away, so I'm just attacking with Symbiosis Shot, which he has to block for 2 again, having 1 card left in hand, and I find the Boom Grenade, crank it, and can attack another time with Symbiosis Shot, taking his whole hand, and then winning the game. So yeah, obviously you needed to find the crank item in the turn to win it. Extremely close, but a bit lucky, and got there in the end. Round 6 is against Osilio again. This time it is... 1 second, I have to click again. This time it is against Johannes, who recently made top 8 in Hamburg on Osilio. So, very good player, obviously. I'm going first, and I'm starting the game with an all-time zone, which is already very good. I think I just really high rolled the game. Everything goes my way. There's not much to say about it, having nighttime zone in play for like the whole game. I think I even had a counter from Fast and Furious to it. It's quite hard for Celio to win without having nighttime zone, but having nighttime zone from the first turn on is just, I think, too much for them to win. So yeah, bit lucky here. Really good draw. Yeah. I think without an item zone, it would have been close because he had gone in the flash early, so he would have been able to combo me quite early. But yeah, that's what the card is for. We even had time to play a second game there as Spark of Genius for an item zone again. So yeah. Then heading to the semifinals. This time it is against Prism. This is Leon, so we're now both qualified for nationals, and he is playing Prism already for quite some time, but he hasn't played much recently. But he was not super happy about the matchup. I had a very interesting starting hand with Cerebellum Processor, which I play from the top. And then I'm seeing Spark of Genius. No, I'm seeing maximum Velocity on the top, so I crank the Cerebellum, draw the maximum velocity, send a super hit, the block with a card and Phantom and Footsteps. And then I'm playing a Spark of Genius, getting a Teklo Core, and arsenaling a second Spark of Genius, keeping the Max V in hand. They attack with Herald, I pop with Max V, they have another Herald, I pop with Throttle, and then from this point on, it was pretty lopsided affair, the game. Just a super strong start with all the poppers. They blocked I think the whole game. There was not and they in the end they didn't deal a single damage to me. I just covered the next attacks with equipment and yeah, it's quite easy again. Getting to start the game and having a really strong start was pretty good. And then we go into the finals, which is funny. The Timo, which I have tested the night before, he came to my place, just picked up the Pleiades deck. We played 3 games into Osilio and 2 games into Dash.io. I lost both of those games, didn't have great draws, but in my testing, I think I played 7-8 games into Pleiades. I think even I was a bit above 50%. So I knew what to do to win the game, but he had a 90-minute game into Gravy Bones in the semifinals, and it was already quite late, so we both decided to split, and he conceded, so I got to get some points on Dash.io. So yeah, maybe in the future I can also earn some of the points. I think the matchup is quite scary, as I mentioned before in the meta game, in the matchup when I talked about the deck list. Matchup is scary, but I think it's quite doable, and I think in my opinion it's a lot better than Victor. So I'm a lot more scared seeing a Victor than a Pleiades, because so that's it. That's the tournament report. Again, a lot of things went my way. Really good matchup spread. I won a lot of die rolls, and then being able to going first in the top 8. This is just so good for Dash.io. And yeah, you can really see. And then the week before, the matchup spread was not as good. I didn't win. I think I only won 2 die rolls out of the 5, and that makes a bit of a difference. And then some of the things don't go your way, and you're losing. Yeah, but that's Flesh and Blood. I hope you enjoyed the deck tag and the tournament report. And yeah, again, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I will also put the deck list in the comments. And yeah, I think I have... The next thing I want to do is I have a game recorded from Talisha into Pleiades, where I can talk a little bit about the strategies, how to beat fatigue. Let me know if you're interested in that, and see you soon.